Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. That was my cat and I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in downtown Brevard, North Carolina. It's Monday. I'm at my house because that's the day we do tips and tricks videos. Have to edit out some flubs every time, you know. This week I thought we'd return to life lessons from knitting and crochet. And the reason I started these videos is there were things I was talking with my knitters and crocheters at the shop about that really touched on my heart with things that were happening in my life. And it continues. So every few weeks, I'm going to try to share them with you without unloading all of my personal life on y'all, because, PM me if you want to know more about that. But this week, this is something I've been talking about with some of my knitters for a couple of weeks now, is assumptions in patterns. One of Liz's favorite spiels right now is, we as knitters and crocheters, we glance at the pattern and we chuck it over our shoulders and we just dive right in and say, I got this. That doesn't always work out well. Sometimes we have a pattern that makes a lot of sense and is very repetitive and very predictable. And so once you memorize it, you're okay. And then there's other patterns. The Papillon is a fantastic example of this. The Papillon butterfly shawl, which Liz and I love, and we do videos for on the tips and tricks to help you make it. And we do shows on the sideshow where we show it off to y'all, all the different versions we've made. As many times as we have made that pattern, you still need the pattern and you still need to follow it line by line for it to come out correctly. And what I'm addressing when I say making assumptions and patterns, it's not that everything we do in life we have to follow the directions on. I have another friend who jokes that I'm what we call label people. I read the label and I follow the instructions. That's not what we're talking about today. It's fun to experiment. It's fun to go off the written script. It can absolutely be completely successful if you don't follow a pattern. That's in our shop, we affectionately call that Carolizing, because we have a knitter Carol who does that all the time. What I'm more addressing here is making an assumption about what the pattern is telling you to do, or making an assumption on how the pattern is going to turn out. That's different than changing the pattern or going off script. So it's a little bit like don't judge a book by its cover. Usually I find though that adage applies to, well, the book may not look good, but it really is. This is more of don't use just the cover photo of a pattern to assume that you know what you're doing or that things are going right. Take that example for life, right? Don't make assumptions about your relationships. Don't make assumptions about people you're interacting with in your life. Take the time to really get to know people. Take the time to read the pattern and fully understand it before you engage in it or as you engage in it. I think that's important too. I caution people on the, just talking about knitting and crocheting to really take the time to know the pattern, but don't get overwhelmed by trying to know it all at once. Take it line by line. Understand where you are. I think that can be very helpful. If it's not clear, ask questions. Don't just make assumptions. I can find times in my life just recently where that might have helped me out. Now, there is always the flip side of if you ask questions of the pattern writer, they may or may not get back to you, and they may or may not be clear because they are expressing how things work in their head, not in yours. So sometimes you have to do a little bit of extra detective work to figure things out. But hopefully, if the pattern writer has the time and really cares about your success, they will talk back and they will respond and help you figure it out. Now, not everybody is able to do that or is overwhelmed. We could push this analogy over a cliff, right? Some pattern writers on the literal side of this will be too busy. We'll have so much going on, it's really hard to get back to everybody. I guess we could push that analogy and say, pick the people you relate to, and the ones that are, if you need the help, will be there for you, right? But returning to the larger idea of don't make assumptions with patterns, with relationships, with things you're working on, with people you're relating to. Take the time to really get to know them and trust and hope that they are showing you who they really are. Don't just glance at it and say, oh yeah, this person's perfect. Boop, I don't need to look at that anymore. That may or may not always work out for you. So take the time to care for your relationships, care for the project you're working on. We've talked before about how knitting, crocheting, it's not always perfect. It's not going to come out perfect. Taking the time to read the pattern and not making assumptions about the pattern. I'm not saying it's going to come out perfect every time. Again, apply that to your life. May not be perfect, but if it's important, it'll be worth it. However it does come out, it will be worth it, and it will be something that you cherish. But take the time to really investigate what you're working on and how you're working on it, to make sure that it reaches a level of success that you will be happy with. I'm finding that not only do I need to apply this to my knitting and crocheting, I often need to apply this to my life as well. It's not foolproof. It's not 100% that if you approach life this way, everything will work out perfectly. But just like knitting, it's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to be a journey that you learn from and you grow with, and you end up in a better place if you listen to the pattern, to yourself, and to those you trust. I think that's all I'm going to say about that today. It's a pretty short video, right? But let me know if there are other things from knitting and crocheting that have worked for you, because it's very possible. I'll try to mention you if I make a video about it, but it's very possible it's something that I go, oh yes, of course, why haven't I thought of that before? I'm always looking for things that can help us all grow and connect and continue to be on that crafting journey with joy and confidence. So let me know what you think below. Give me ideas if you have them for future videos, whether it's a technical one where I'm drawing or it's one like this, well, just philosophizing, right? I'm sure there's some more things about patterns and assumptions that could be added. Could we do a part 2? Consider checking out the sideshow where Liz and I talk about our projects, and you can see the lovely papillons we've been working on, amongst other things. I'm on social media. Subscribe here if you haven't, all that good stuff. Consider supporting us on our Patreon account, which is patreon.com/sundragon. And I'll say it once again, may your crafting be filled with joy and confidence. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. There's my kitty, huh? So how can I teach you not to make assumptions about me when you decide that I am no longer your friend and you want to bite me, huh? Yeah. Maybe it's that you don't make assumptions about me. That tail is sometimes a good thing and sometimes not. Yeah? What do we got? I think we're done.